Joining us now is Nate Adams, a film critic at theonlycritic.com, as well as Rotten Tomatoes, to talk about the latest with movies, TV, and streaming. Nate, thanks for being with us today.
Tyler, thanks for having me.
Good to have you back, Nate. So right now in the theaters, what are some of the movies that are out right now or that are coming out soon that you suggest people should either be going to see or be ready to go see when they hit theaters?
Well, the good news is for moviegoers is that moviegoing and movies that are coming out, like big blockbusters, holiday season specials, all that is back on the table now. It feels like, October was a record month, which usually doesn't happen ever. Before, I think you have to go back to 1988 to find when October was the busiest month of the year. It's usually July, the peak of summer. But upcoming, so the awards movies are coming out because the Oscars and the Critics' Choice Awards, all that stuff's on the horizon. So there's a lot of good stuff coming out. This weekend you got Kenneth Branagh's Belfast, which is right now the Best Picture frontrunner. It's kind of a semi-autobiographical take from the filmmaker who kind of goes back to his roots and explores his childhood. It's a great cast: Jamie Dornan, Syrian Hans, all that's really, really good. Next week you have King Richard, which is starring Will Smith, who is the Best Actor frontrunner, and he gives the performance of a career playing Serena and Venus Williams' father. Little unorthodox. 10 minutes into it, you don't even feel like you're watching Will Smith at all. He completely disappears into the role. Same for Spencer, which is starring Kristen Stewart as Princess Diana, also getting a ton of awards buzz, Best Actress frontrunner, and she's also terrific. So really, really good content coming out in the next few weeks. Stuff that'll be in theaters, stuff that will be at home. Obviously, the new Marvel movie Eternals is out. You got Spider-Man No Way Home coming out in December. You got The Matrix, West Side Story. There's a Home Alone remake coming on Disney Plus this weekend, which I highly recommend everybody stay away from. So yeah, there's a lot of options for families too. Clifford the Big Red Dog just debuted this week, which is actually, I'm in the minority. I actually didn't end up hating it, but if you go online, there might be some people that say otherwise.
We're joined by Nate Adams, film critic at theonlycritic.com, joining us today on the MegaCast. So the holiday season, as you said, movies, the holiday movie season boom, expected to be back. It's already kind of starting after a big month of October for our theaters. The first of these big holidays coming up that usually have mass release of movies is going to be Thanksgiving. A number of different films coming out on Thanksgiving. Huge films. That's going to be a big weekend. What are some of those biggest films that are going to be released that weekend that we'll probably be seeing a lot of families going to theaters to go watch?
Well, Disney has their Lin-Manuel Miranda animated film Encanto, which is, I haven't had the chance to see it yet, but I know that, Lin-Manuel Miranda is obviously riding a huge popularity wave. He's got Tick, Tick, Boom coming out this week, which is Andrew Garfield's getting a ton of award buzz. It's his directorial debut. And of course, Hamilton. He did Vivo over the summer with Netflix. So the Lin-Manuel Miranda train hype is going pretty good. And that comes out over Thanksgiving. And then another buzzy film that people will probably want to keep an eye on is called House of Gucci, which is obviously about the assassination of the famous fashion designer, and it stars Lady Gaga, Adam Driver, Jeremy Irons, Jared Leto, Al Pacino, and it's directed by Ridley Scott. So that's got a ton of buzz. That will also be opening in the Thanksgiving corridor. But then families are also going to have some good options at home. Disney has obviously got the Hawkeye series coming out for Disney Plus, and then there's a 3-part Beatles documentary, behind the scenes footage of one of the makings of the Beatles albums that Peter Jackson directed. That's a 3-part series that's going to debut on Thanksgiving. So in theaters and at home, there's going to be plenty for audiences, families, adults to indulge in.
We're joined by Nate Adams from theonlycritic.com, joining us on the MegaCast. On the TV side of things, a lot of new shows have been released, particularly on streaming platforms of late that have gotten a lot of buzz. What are some of those top shows still that have been recent releases and others that are highly anticipated going forward?
So Apple TV Plus has a show coming out tomorrow starring Will Ferrell and Paul Rudd, which Paul Rudd was just named Sexiest Man Alive by People. So buzz for that. And then he's also in Ghostbusters Afterlife, which comes out next week. That's also very highly anticipated. You can't buy that kind of publicity. I'm sure it was just kind of like a coincidence. But The Shrink Next Door, which is based on the popular podcast, it stars Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell plays a patient to Paul Rudd's therapist, who he ends up getting taken advantage of and ends up giving him millions and millions millions and millions of dollars over the course of like 3 decades. So I got the chance to see the whole season. The first 3 episodes drop tomorrow on Apple TV Plus. Very, very good. It's got comedic, dramatic elements. I think Will Ferrell, who, you know, we usually know Will Ferrell for doing immature, raunchy comedies. It was actually nice to see him showcase some serious dramatic chops. One of the best performances I've ever seen him give. Also, right now, Succession is going hot and heavy on HBO Max. I think Succession is probably the best show out there currently airing on TV. It's in its 3rd season. I highly recommend going back and checking out the first 2 seasons and catching up if you haven't. I also just finished Impeachment, the American crime story about Bill Clinton's scandal with Monica Lewinsky, just wrapped on FX. That was also very, very good. And then if you're not watching on Hulu, it's called Dope Sick, which stars Michael Keaton, Peter Sarsgaard, and Rosario Dawson. It's a real-life dramatization of how they took down Purdue. The FBI built up the case, taking down Purdue Pharma, obviously of the OxyContin drug epidemic. So that's also very, very, very good if you're looking for something to binge these next few weeks.
We're joined by Nate Adams, a film critic from theonlycritic.com. You can also see his film reviews on Rotten Tomatoes as well. And in terms of other big TV streaming shows that have released recently, probably the most notable of all of them has been Squid Game. Have you seen that, and what are your thoughts on that series? I have not seen it yet, and I keep getting pestered that I should.
Yeah, Squid Game is... I did see Squid Game, and I did very much enjoy it. And I was worried because what happens is kind of like the Tiger King effect, where something just kind of hits at the right time and everybody kind of latches onto it. And then I kind of felt that peer pressure too, Tyler. Everybody was telling me in my ear, you got to watch it. And then you see it in your queue, and it's #1 for like 10 weeks. I just have to give credit here, obviously, to Netflix, because it was a grassroots campaign that kind of propelled the show to the biggest hit probably of the streamer's tenure. And I particularly like that it is introducing audiences to that kind of the cinema, right? Foreign language cinema, which, thanks to Parasite and now this, I think more and more people are kind of getting used to it, because, before there was the stigma of, well, I don't necessarily want to watch a movie that has subtitles, or I don't want to read my whole movie. And I think that stigma is slowly going away, and I hope it opens the doors for more people to check out great foreign cinema, because 9 times out of 10 they're usually always better than what we produce here. Yeah,
I'm a foreign language films with subtitles. Once you get past the subtitles,
and subtitles in general are great, because I love watching things with subtitles because I never miss a word of dialogue. I really, really wish that movie theaters and AMC has started doing this. I wish some more local houses would do it. Open caption showings, so that way people are laughing, you're chewing on your popcorn or whatever. You miss those little lines of dialogue, or maybe you're watching something where the characters have heavy accents,
Yeah.
And it's just like they go so fast, and it's nice to just kind of slow down and read everything. And I know there's been some controversy with Squid Game and how it was translated, but that's a conversation probably for another day.
Yeah, I think in terms of any films or TV shows that do come with subtitles, it's different at first if you're not used to watching that kind of content.
It's become my new norm.
Right.
I have to watch with subtitles.
No,
yeah.
I love it. Once you get used to it, you actually I found that once I got used to it, and same with what I've discussed with other people, particularly when I was in school and I was watching a lot of films and a lot of TV for my classes, being a broadcasting major, that once they started to watch films with subtitles, they started to really enjoy that too. So it's something to get past, and once you get past, you really start to enjoy it, or at the very least, it's just like watching anything else. So something like that.
Exactly. 100%.
Very interesting. So you mentioned when we were talking about Squid Game, it kind of had the, as you said, Tiger King effect. Netflix coming out with Tiger King 2. Are you interested in that?
I am interested in the sole purpose that, it's guilty pleasure television. Of course, like everybody else, I watched the first season and I was hooked. And again, it hit at the right time. We were just going into all those COVID lockdowns, and we were all kind of looking for something to latch on. And apparently, America has a lot of hatred for Carol Baskins. So, and we'll see. She's already trying to sue. I don't know if you saw this, but she's trying to sue the producers for this next season. I don't think that's it's still going to come out. I think it's coming out November 17th, which I think is next Wednesday.
Yeah.
I will definitely be a viewer on that one.
Yeah, it's something interesting. I also, much like Squid Game, didn't see Tiger King, didn't really care for it, didn't
You
seem
gotta
very
catch
interesting
up.
to me.
What are you watching?
Oh, I gotta catch up, but yeah, sure, I gotta catch up on some things. That's was one thing, Tiger King, that I just did not seem remotely interested in. But yeah, I did hear about Carol Baskin suing the producer. Apparently, a lot of angry cats and kittens out there directed at Carol Baskin. So,
yes.
It's sad for her. But one thing I am watching, I have started watching, is much like a lot of other shows that have come in past, there's a lot of revivals that have started recently. And I started watching last weekend as it got released. Dexter New Blood just released on Showtime last weekend. Are you watching that? Are you encouraged to watch that? Or what have you heard so far about that revival of Dexter?
Well, I don't watch Dexter, so I don't have as much insight into it. But I do know that there were some fans that were very, let's just say, upset with how the series have previously ended. So I think that, if my understanding is, this is kind of Showtime trying to course correct what happened and maybe make people more satisfied with how that. I don't know how it ended. I might watch it someday. So, but are you getting that sense from the show too? Because I know Michael C. Hall is obviously. He's very good in the show, and he gets a lot of buzz for it. But no, I'm on the Dexter train. Yeah,
Michael C. Hall back in an executive producer role. Clyde Phillips, their original executive producer and showrunner through their first 4 seasons, is back running this.
I'm worried
series.
that when they do that, when they do these revivals, where you see like they redid the Wonder Years, which is currently airing on ABC, like all those things. I get worried that it's just we're running out of ideas, and we don't. Reboot, sequels, all this. This is part of the reason Disney is releasing this terrible Home Alone sequel that comes out tomorrow on Disney Plus. It's because they got to keep subscribers watching. So are you getting the feeling from Dexter that it's kind of, is it feel like it's authentic, or do you think they're just kind of using it to make some extra streaming dollars?
It feels to me like it's a new show with the same characters in a different setting. You're kind of seeing, because it's. Of course, they are beginning that revival in real time. So it's years down the line. He's in a different setting for a number of different reasons that are spoilers, so I won't get into them. But I do like what they're doing with it so far. I do like that they did bring back their original showrunner from the first 4 seasons, which have been regarded as the best parts of that show's 8-season run.
And HBO is also toying with the idea of bringing back another Sopranos show. A prequel. They did the many saints of Newark. I didn't watch the Sopranos. I'm currently making my way through it, and I am enjoying it. So just kind of this mind the vault. I hope that this isn't. I hope it already is. It's kind of given the standard of reboots franchise, like Paramount Plus when it came out. It's kind of launching with a ton of pre-existing properties. Clifford the Big Red Dog. Even though I kind of enjoyed it, it still was kind of. It's just these are unnecessary things, and so you got to kind of look deep down for things that might challenge you more and might be more entertaining.
There's got to be, for me, a revival has to come with purpose. It can't just be nostalgia or trying to re-ring the same bell again for a different audience.
And I know the Saved by the Bell reboot on Peacock last year did get some warm praise. That was another one of those that people seem to enjoy. So maybe in the right setting with the right creative team, they can pull it off. But 8 times out of 10, it feels like it never quite reaches its apex.
We're joined by Nate Adams, film critic at theonlycritic.com and Rotten Tomatoes as well, where you can see his film reviews. And so, Nate, as we are going forward, and as you mentioned before, that October was a great month for theaters. We're starting to see those seeing their performance get back to a little bit of more normalcy as time has gone on. Where are theaters at and film studios at in terms of returning to that full sense of normalcy or getting back on track as much as it's possible after the year plus that they lost because of the pandemic?
Well, Disney was kind of experimenting with their releases over the summer. They released Black Widow, Cruella, Jungle Cruise, all premiere access at home for $30. Same with HBO Max and Warner Brothers, the whole that day and date release strategy. So as of right now, yesterday, Disney had its earnings call, and the CEO, Bob Chapek, said it's flexibility is the key. So he's not fully committing to a theatrical window, even though after Shang-Chi did really, really good back in September, they committed the rest of the slate for theatrical only. Next year, I still think there's going to be some building blocks as they determine what's best for theaters and what's best for streaming. And I think really, studios used to put out like 10 or, Warner Brothers, for example, 24 movies in a year, right? Now the goal is they're going to do 12 in theaters and then 12 for HBO Max. Like that's going to be the new standard. So theaters are going to become less and less the spot for those smaller independent films that normally would gain some traction, like in limited release and then expand, things like that. So it's a waiting game. So you got November's not going to be as high as October because October just was a robust month with week after week of just insane numbers. November will do good and it has a chance, but really you're going to see the biggest telltale sign. And I know we've kept pushing the goalposts like, well, if this movie does well and if this movie does well, then we'll know for sure that exhibition is back 100%. And Shang-Chi did really good. Eternals just opened to 71 million last weekend. But really, the button on all of this is if Spider-Man No Way Home next month, December 17th, needs to open to $100 million. It would be the first movie to do it since the onslaught of the pandemic. If that doesn't happen, I'm not going to say the death of theaters, but it's just like it's going to make you reevaluate certain perspectives on what's going to be theatrically viable going forward.
Well, Nate, we appreciate your time. Thanks for giving us some insight into what we should be looking out for.
Good to chat.
Yeah, good to chat with you too.
We got Matrix Resurrections coming up next month. I already mentioned West Side Story. And me, I'm going to geek here a little bit. I am so excited. We talked about reboots, sequels, and franchises, but I am so stoked for the Scream movie that's coming out in January, which is bringing back the legacy cast. And that's kind of that thing where it's like, hey, if it doesn't feel cheap or exploitive, maybe it's good. It's going to be the first one without Wes Craven. I am very hopefully optimistic that it lives up to the premise of the filmmakers. I have a lot of confidence in. So that's what I'm excited for.
Yeah, same thing with Calvin Brown over here, our board operator, our studio producer. Also very excited for Scream coming up as well. So thank you for joining us, Nate.
Thanks again. Always a pleasure.